You've heard of the pineal gland. They call it the third eye, the seat of the soul, the forgotten key. But here's what they don't tell you. Activating it isn't some peaceful, new age light show. It's a breakthrough that breaks you first. Because when the pineal opens, you don't just see more. You see everything. You see through lies, through masks, through the illusion that this world is all there is. And most people aren't ready for that. Because real vision doesn't show you beauty first. It shows you distortion, the false matrix, the invisible chains you never noticed until now. This is why they've tried to keep it closed. This is why awakening it feels like fear before it becomes freedom. But if you're here, if you've felt that pressure in your forehead, that pull towards something, that sense that reality is coded, then the process has already begun. The only question is, are you ready to see what's really there? You feel it, don't you? That strange weight behind your forehead, a dull throb between your eyebrows, sometimes heat, sometimes buzzing, sometimes nothing, just a knowing. That's not your imagination. It's your pineal gland, responding. To what? To signal, to your attention, to your desire to see through what's been carefully veiled. And that's the first stage of activation, discomfort. Not because something's wrong, but because something buried is waking up. Your pineal gland has been calcified, suppressed, shut down by fluoride, by fear, by noise. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it matters more than anything. It's the antenna that picks up what your eyes can't. Not hallucinations, perceptions, timelines, energies, truths. Ancient traditions didn't guess this. They encoded it in temples, built structures aligned with the third eye, carved it into stone, protected it with bloodlines and secrecy, because once it opens, you no longer need a guru. You no longer believe the lie. You no longer follow. You know. But here's the catch. The truth doesn't ease in. It crashes. The first images that flood your inner sight might not be bliss. They might be darkness, shadow, forgotten memories. Because before the light gets in, you have to clear what's blocking the signal. This isn't about escaping reality. It's about piercing through it. And that takes more courage than most are willing to summon. You're not just turning something on. You're tuning into everything they didn't want you to hear. The moment your pineal gland starts waking up, you don't feel clarity. You feel chaos, sudden dizziness, dreams that bleed into waking life. Moments where you feel like you're watching the world from behind your own eyes, like a witness, not a participant. Your sleep patterns fracture. You wake up between 3 and 5 a.m. every night, like something is calling you from the silence. Not a voice, but a pull. Your appetite changes. Your intuition spikes. You begin sensing the energy of a room before anyone speaks. And the people around you, they feel it, even if they can't explain it. They sense you're different now. That's not coincidence, it's resonance. Because your pineal isn't just opening your inner vision, it's broadcasting. You're becoming a node in a system they never wanted you to know existed. A living, breathing antenna. And the more you resist the process, the more painful it becomes. Because this isn't a physical shift, it's dimensional. You're aligning with layers of reality your old self was never meant to access. And if this feels overwhelming, good. That means it's working. So if you're ready to stop scrolling through empty content and actually unlock the part of you that never forgot who you are, subscribe, hit the bell, because the next part is the one they've tried hardest to keep hidden. This isn't modern science. This is ancient technology, embedded in the body. The pineal gland has been called many names. The Eye of Horus, the seat of Shiva, the Ajna Chakra, the Stargate, the Crystal Palace. They weren't using metaphors. They were describing exactly what it is. A transmitter, a receptor, a bridge between dimensions. Deep within your brain, this gland is surrounded by cerebrospinal fluid that resonates with vibration. And inside it, microcrystals, piezoelectric, just like the crystals used in radios and tech. When stimulated through sound, light, meditation, or frequency, these crystals begin to vibrate. What does that mean? It means your brain has a built-in antenna capable of tuning into frequencies far beyond physical sight. Ancient Egypt encoded it in the Eye of Horus. The diagram of the eye matches the pineal gland's cross-section. Coincidence? Not a chance. In Vedic texts, it was the Ajna chakra, the command center, the seat of insight, the place where illusion dies. Even Descartes, the rationalist philosopher, called it the seat of the soul. And he wasn't writing poetry, he was making a statement. The pineal gland connects your inner world to the outer grid, to the universal field, to the original signal. And guess what? It's programmable. They knew this. That's why ancient temples weren't just built, they were tuned. The sound chambers, the harmonics, the alignment with stars, all engineered to activate the third eye. You think you need modern tech to expand your consciousness? You were born with it. You just forgot the protocols. And that forgetting, it was no accident. Fluoride, EMF, processed food, constant distraction, all engineered to jam the signal. Because a population with activated pineals doesn't follow orders, doesn't beg for meaning, doesn't consume blindly. It creates, it remembers. And when enough remember, the veil doesn't just lift, it shatters. Let's stop pretending this was ever just about biology. They never wanted to suppress your pineal gland because it was useless. They wanted to shut it down because it's the one part of you they can't control unless you let them. Think about it. Why add fluoride to the water? Why normalize food that calcifies the brain? Why drown you in screens, noise, flashing lights, and sensory overload? Because your pineal gland is a tuning fork, and they've spent decades jamming it with static. They don't want you to tune in. They want you to stay tuned to their channels, to their fear, to their systems, to their version of truth. Because when your pineal activates, you don't just see deeper, you start seeing through fake gurus, through dead religions, through politics dressed as purpose, through healing that keeps you dependent, through education designed to erase real memory, through media built to mirror your fears back to you until you forget you ever had vision of your own. An open pineal is non-compliant by nature. It doesn't obey, it perceives, it doesn't react, it remembers. And that's what makes you dangerous. Because in a world built on illusion, those who see are threats. So what do? They offer replacements. Blue light instead of starlight. Entertainment instead of silence. Opinion instead of intuition. Chemicals instead of consciousness. And they call it progress. They call it science. They call it normal. But deep down, you know normal is the most programmed state of all. Here's the truth. You've been lied to, numbed, and distracted not because you're powerless, but because you're too powerful to be left awake. They don't fear your weapons, they fear your wavelength. Because if you begin to emit truth, even just by existing as your real self, you start to unravel their web. One person with a fully activated pineal radiates frequency fields that ripple through the collective. It doesn't take everyone. It takes enough to break the pattern, enough to crack the grid, enough to stop asking and start knowing. And that knowing, it begins inside you, not with another app, not with another ritual, but with one decision: to reclaim your signal, to remember what they taught you to fear, to see. So now you know what they've tried to block. But what does activation actually feel like? It's not like flipping a light switch. It's like lighting a circuit that was dormant your entire life. It starts subtly. Vibrations in the center of your head, pressure behind your eyes, a tingling in your spine that syncs with your breath. Then it gets louder. You may begin to hear tones, high-pitched frequencies that seem to come from nowhere. That's not tinnitus. That's your inner receiver adjusting. You'll find yourself entering dream states while fully awake. Random flashes of memories, some yours, some not. Visions that feel realer than your waking life. Time becomes fluid. Moments stretch and collapse simultaneously. Your inner world begins bleeding into the outer. You might even feel fear, not because something's wrong, but because you're entering the unknown without filters. This is when many people pull back. They assume something's gone wrong. But that fear? It's just the ego dying. It's the trained mind losing its grip on a frequency it was never taught to hold. Because the pineal doesn't just open, it begins to interact. With what? With your heart, your gut, your spine, your field. The crystalline matrix within your cerebrospinal fluid begins to resonate. Your breath starts activating coils of light through your nervous system. Your thoughts become triggers, each one either tuning your signal or distorting it. You start attracting people who recognize you, not by face, but by field. You walk into places and feel the history in the walls. You begin hearing meaning in silence. You sense motion in stillness. And if you go deeper, you'll start decoding reality in real time. Geometry, sound, color, even emotion, all become information. You're no longer just observing life. You're interfacing with it as a living system, as a broadcast tower, as consciousness embodied. This is what mystics tried to explain with metaphors, what ancient scribes encoded in symbols, what prophets hinted at but could never fully reveal. Because the truth can't be taught, it can only be remembered. And your pineal gland, it's the key to that remembering. You're not activating something foreign, you're activating your original design. And once it switches on, you'll never feel normal again, but you'll finally feel real. You've been led to believe awakening is passive, that it's about seeing more, knowing more, understanding the hidden. But the pineal doesn't just help you see frequency, it makes you a generator of it. Your gland is not just a receiver, it's a projector, and once activated, you no longer just absorb reality, you start shaping it. Thoughts hit harder, intentions echo louder, desires magnetize faster. You become louder in the field, not in volume, in vibration. This is why you're dangerous now, because you can no longer be programmed the way they've programmed the masses. You don't look to others for answers, you broadcast your own. You walk into a room and people feel different, not because of your clothes, not your status, but because your field has changed. You now hold charge, and people either rise to it or get triggered by it. You start to notice how your presence disrupts lies, how your gaze breaks illusions, how your silence speaks truths people can't explain. This is what they feared, not just an awake person, but a person who emits awakening, and it comes with responsibility. You can no longer hide in low vibrations. You can no longer numb your knowing. You can no longer shrink to fit spaces that feel like cages, because your field now demands coherence. You can feel lies in your body. You can sense truth in the dark. You're drawn to purity, in people, in space, in sound. You are no longer chasing frequency. You are frequency. This is the turning point. From seeker to signal, from passive student to living transmission. Your pineal isn't a destination, it's the ignition point, and you've lit the fuse. So now the question isn't, what's next? It's, what will you choose to broadcast now that you're finally online? Because your thoughts shape timelines. Your focus feeds futures. Your resonance rebuilds reality. You are no longer part of the story. You are now the source code. So now you know, this wasn't a video, this was a transmission, not just to inform you, but to remind you what they made you forget. You were never blind, you were blocked, you were never weak, you were waiting for the frequency to rise, waiting for the code to trigger, waiting for the fire to ignite behind your eyes, and now it has. Your pineal gland isn't just a mystery, it's your missing sense, your forgotten compass, your built-in truth detector. And once it opens, you no longer just look at reality, you pierce it. So don't stop here. This is the beginning. You're now in possession of the key they swore didn't exist. And the only thing that determines where it takes you next is what you choose to do with it. So I'll leave you with this. If your inner eye is open, what will you finally dare to see that your outer life has always been too afraid to face? Drop your answer in the comments. Someone else on this path needs to read it. And if you're ready for the next layer, you already know where to find it. This was not entertainment. This was a reconnection. You've activated more than a gland. You've activated your signal. Now let's see what you do with it.